Welcome to the Fantasy NASCAR podcast. I am Race for the Prize. Let's talk leverage in the Truck Series at Bristol this week. There is a truck leverage opportunity this week. The leverage will come at a cost to me personally, but there is a truck leverage opportunity. So I'm going to do a podcast about it. I will not enjoy this, but I can share this information and it'll help you. So I will begrudgingly do it. First of all, before I start, I welcome criticism. If I'm wrong, let me know. If my content is lazy, let me know. If the sound sucks, let me know. If I'm not speaking clearly or inarticulately, let me know. Flame in the comments on Twitter and your private Discord. I'm a man, I'm a teacher. I face 150 critics every day. They don't hold back. You don't need to hold back. No, I say this because what I'm going to say, I'm sure other people are going to be disappointed. And I welcome criticism of what I'm about to discuss. The point of this is not to belittle anyone, pick on anyone. I just noticed something that was inaccurate. I noticed some errors and I identified some leverage. Thought about sitting on it. And I thought, well, look, people look to me in this podcast. People look to me for truth, honesty, and true DFS plays. People look to me for honesty and transparency. And hey, some of you guys even give me money. And so the least I can do is be honest, forthright, work hard. And if I know something, I got to give it to you. So speaking of working hard, I do a lot of research. And part of that research is listening to stuff that I really don't want to listen to. You know, I cover every DFS sport there is. From MLB to NBA, I've been writing for over a decade, so I got to do tons of research. I've got to read other people's articles. I've got to listen to other people's shows. Don't like it, but it's necessary. And, sometimes I miss something in my research. So it's good to check what other people are doing. And maybe I can improve by studying other people's delivery styles. Not really. But anyway, I put in the work. I don't mention the competition. I keep it to myself. Not because I don't want them to have attention, but I don't need a DFS war. Been there. It gets ugly. I've started a couple wars, been dragged into a couple wars. The loyal trolls just dogpile like lemmings. Everyone blindly defends their tout. It gets ugly. I almost got fired a handful of times because of it. So I don't mention the competition. I don't really talk about anybody else. I just stay in my lane. But every once in a while, there's a situation where like, wow, this is completely inaccurate. And this is going to provide a ton of leverage. Imagine content provider A says a bunch of things that are wrong, and you've got thousands of people listening to content provider A or hundreds of people listening to content provider A, and they all follow that play, and it's wrong. And so like, I'm not going to play that person. I'm going to go heavy on the other side. You would want to know that, so I'm going to share that with you. Again, this is not to discourage or disparage or belittle content provider A. Maybe the mistake was innocent. Maybe it was just lack of preparation. Either way, there are errors and mistakes that I think are going to permeate throughout the truck series industry, if that's such a thing. And we can take that information and go in the other direction. It's not really a problem, right? Lazy content is widely viewed. If it's inaccurate, then, I'm not really worried about people that watch content provider A's videos. I don't want to save them. They can go ahead and make bad picks. I don't care about their audience. But I can give you leverage. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to remain silent. Should acknowledge the errors, burn it down. Again, if what I say is taken as you're a mean guy, you're a villain, you're a heel, then I accept that is my role and in doing what I think is necessary. And bring it on. Come after me. Let's have a long weekend of the hate. But there is no hate in this. This is simply me just trying to help people out. All right, here we go. Where's the leverage at? Truck content. So content provider A says Ankrum is an 11th place driver. Are you freaking kidding me? So if you listen to the video, oh, well, Ankrum's just an 11th place driver. Not going to play him. Are you crazy? Bill McAnally trucks look great this season. Bill McAnally won this race in 2022. Bill McAnally should have won this race in 2023. Derek Kraus in 2021, I believe, led 27 laps, had one of the fastest cars. Derek Kraus ended up in the optimal lineup, a top 10 finish for Bill McAnally. Bill McAnally clearly has good trucks here. Bill McAnally unloaded with a lot of speed to begin the season. Tyler Ankrum has been one of the best drivers this season. Tyler Ankrum has the highest driver rating this season. Oh, well, that's factoring in Atlanta and Daytona. Atlanta and Daytona are very much more like regular truck racing than, say, the Cup Series. Sure, you want to dismiss the Cup Series, Atlanta and Talladega, or Atlanta and Daytona. That is fine. But pack drafting is really nothing crazy. So good finishes at Atlanta and Daytona are significant. Not the most significant, but even if you want to throw those out, that's fine. He had the fourth highest driver rating at Las Vegas. What are we doing? He's an 11th place driver. Where did we come up with that number? So the people watching are not going to have anything to do with Ankrum. And Ankrum absolutely has upside, and he is not too expensive. That is the first place that you're going to want to look for leverage. What are we doing? Ankrum had the third highest driver rating at Bristol in 2020 was the year, not 2021. The next one was Enfinger was dismissed out of hand. Again, what are we talking about? We know because we do research that Cody Robaugh is allied with Bill McAnally, and we have seen the correlation of speed thus far this season. Could be a little bit faster, but again, it's the beginning of this team really taking its first step forward. It's shown us everything we need to see. Jeff Stankiewicz, great crew chief. Grant Enfinger, great track history. And just to say he's not in play. What are we doing? What are we doing? So there again, if you're looking for leverage, the people that watch that video, they have crossed Grant Enfinger off. You may want to get the highlighter out. Next thing the video discussed by content provider A. Young Motorsports is completely dismissed. They just suck, is what I am told. Are you kidding me? Are we watching races this season? Young Motorsports has been a pleasant surprise. It's been really awesome to watch them in the Xfinity Series and in the Truck Series return to what they once were. You're right there in 20th place. What was the expectation? Are they the number one team? No. But they're a $5,500 truck that can finish in 20th place. What are we talking about? You were spending $5,500 on Jennifer Jo Cobb in the past, who had no chance in hell at getting to 20th. We've got a young truck capable of reaching 20th at $5,500. That's a whole podcast to itself, not like they suck, next driver. What are we doing? But yet the people watching that content have now crossed him off as well. Awesome. Good. Have fun trying to afford some of these expensive drivers when you've crossed off the young truck. Brett Holmes, basically ignored. What are we doing? And I'm glad the people that watch that video are going to ignore Brett Holmes. Your loss. This truck is allied with Spire. The crew chief is Mike Shiflett, who won, 8 races with Cole Custer in a season, was the CGR All-Star crew chief for that Target car in the Xfinity Series. They have looked good to start the season, finishes a 4th, 11th, and 12th at different tracks, first time working together. They're going to go into Bristol. It will be a challenge, of course, but at $5,800, there's a lot of things going right here. Again, this isn't Jennifer Jo Cobb. This isn't Norm Benning. This isn't the old crappy Rayum trucks that we're punting on. When we punted in the past, there was nothing good. There was nothing positive to say. I've got a handful of good things to say about Brett Holmes. He had plenty of good races last season. Oh, he's just terrible. The next guy that gets completely washed away and the audience is not going to play, which I think is really significant, is Lane Riggs. He is a future star. He is running for Front Row Motorsports, a former Truck Series Championship team. No consideration whatsoever in that video. So the people that watch the video are not going to consider him at all. What are we doing? I get it. Oh, well, it's $8,200 for an unproven driver. I understand. But the last time I checked, the content provider that loves to do these things loves to talk ownership and leverage. And this is the perfect opportunity. When you've got to spend up for expensive drivers, when you've got to spend up for a Kyle Busch and you've got to punt, this $8,200 range is no man's land. No one is going to own him whatsoever. Again, this is a podcast unto itself. You want leverage? You want to go where no one wants to go? Lane Riggs is a future star. Lane Riggs has talent. His experience at Bristol is limited. Yes, he did finish second, I believe, in 2018 at Bristol in ARCA or maybe a late model. What are we doing? What are we doing? Front Row Motorsports won this race in 2022. Last season, Zane Smith cycled to the lead, but they had a chance at winning it again. Front Row is fast at this track. 8,200. It's expensive, but that will suppress ownership. Lane Riggs is a talented driver, and we don't really need him to win at 8,200. We just need him to be a good point per dollar play, and he's going to be low owned. Will it work? I don't know. All these guys that I'm mentioning, I can't guarantee that they're going to work, but I have a pretty good feeling that their ownership is now going to be suppressed because every one of them was dismissed out of hand with almost no research done at all. And the only research that was done was that, hey, the guys that are good are going to finish in the front. Again, if I make a mistake, call me out. I mean, just want to make sure I said that McAnally stuff right. McAnally 2023 should have won with Agus. Yes, that's right. Kraus had a strong car in 2022. Was it 2022 or 2021? My notes say 2022, so I'll trust that. Okay. Just wanted to make sure. In defense of everyone who does do Truck Series content, these guys are jumping in and out of truck all the time. It's not easy. You constantly have to go over and do your homework. But if you're not constantly going over and doing your homework, then you're not doing your homework. I mean, what else do you want me to say? If you're not reviewing your notes, if you're not watching the videos, if you're not looking at the lap by lap data, then you're not doing that, and you're not providing that to your audience. End the story. Daniel Dye sucks is the next thing that I get. Again, are we watching the races? Are we doing the work? The people that watch this have now just written off Daniel Dye in a Bill McAnally truck at $6,100. What are we doing, folks? What are we? Oh, well, he finished 24th at Las Vegas. Typical Daniel Dye. Daniel Dye was in 9th place with 15 laps left in the Las Vegas race and had an unscheduled pit stop. It just takes a little bit of research to figure out that, oh no, he's actually running pretty well. And then he had a top 10 driver rating at Daytona and Atlanta. Well, those are Daytona and Atlanta. Okay. He clearly has enough speed. He clearly was in those races till nearly the end. What more do you need from Daniel Dye? What does he have to do to prove to you that he's top 20, top 15 driver? I think he has proven enough that he is a top 10. Look, Bill McAnally has impressed. These results are really solid. What more do you need to see? That's $6,100. I would understand if he was $8,000, that maybe you wouldn't be impressed by Daniel Dye. But at the very least, even if he was $8,000, Daniel Dye deserves more than he sucks. Move on to the next driver. Craziness, folks. Absolute. So the people that watch the video, they want nothing to do with Daniel Dye now when he is an absolutely steal of value. Like guys like Matt Mills get more of a discussion, which is crazy. There's no discussion to be had about Matt Mills. Matt Mills is an okay driver. He is a fine driver. For whatever reason, Nice gets so much attention because Ross Chastain. Nice gets so much attention because they've been kind of a pivotal point of the DFS community. I will not understand that. Whereas the other guys that require more research, who haven't been around as long, they just get dismissed. It's like the only research that happened was 3 years ago, and everybody just stopped looking at data. It's the craziest thing. It's like during COVID, people had time in their hands, so they became familiar with the data. And then when COVID ended, people stopped doing homework, and now they're just like referencing 2020 stuff. I don't know what is going on, but the audience out there should know that Daniel Dye probably going to get overlooked. Look, now someone's going to rush to Racing Reference and say, well, his average finish was 20th last year. That's not that good. His average finish was 20th last year for GMS. GMS had crap equipment. That was GMS's last season. It was a lame dog team. Do you think they were investing in parts at GMS? Do you think they've been investing in parts for the last couple seasons? Do you think they just woke up in July and said, we're shutting it down? They knew what they were doing. They've had a plan for years. This is not just some rando business. Gallagher Motorsports runs Allegiant Airlines. You don't think that they have, 5-10 year plans, you don't think that they knew what they were doing? You can tell by the results of GMS for a while that thing was shutting down. You could tell the results for a while that the employees at GMS knew that thing was shutting down. So you have fewer parts, you have fewer equipment, you have few people giving a damn. And for Daniel Dye to average a 20th place finish last season for a lame duck team, that's actually pretty solid, folks. That's not bad at all. And even when GMS was running well, it wasn't like this was Hendrick Motorsports. Get that out of your head. You imagine like all four cars are going to be superpowers and they're all going to combine to form Megatron. That's not the way that it works. Often the team has one really good driver and the rest are kind of just out there because they bring sponsorship and the team is able to just run a bigger garage, etc. It just makes more sense financially instead of just doing one single team. And we had seen that with GMS where Creed had his season, Moffitt and Creed kind of had a season. Infinger had a season where maybe most of the resources were going to him, but it was never, the Daniel Dye season. He was never the primary car. He was secondary or tertiary. So for him to average a 20th place finish, he just sucks. What are we doing? So, again, it's not to be mean. It's not to pick on anyone. It's not to belittle anyone. And to be honest, criticism's good. I appreciate a lot of the criticism I received over the last decade. Ken, you go back and look at some of my old videos and read the comments. Ken is there like, dude, stop talking about this. And you're going on about that. Just get to the picks. And, the initial thing is like, oh, you don't know what he's talking about. But then you realize, yeah, he probably does. So you take the comments, and because there's not a lot, and you digest them and figure out how you can get better from them. So what I'm saying here is, I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to make anyone better, but I am trying to improve your plays. We ignore Connor Jones in the video. Guy had top 15 at Bristol last year, and he just gets ignored. What are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, it's just crazy town. This is why I had to do this podcast. I really don't want to do this podcast. I am not enjoying doing this podcast. I don't want to be mean to anyone, but this is such a great leverage opportunity. The people that watch the video are, oh, well, Connor Jones sucks. $6,000 Thor truck. What are we doing? Are we losing our money? Finished in the top 15 last season. He's a talented kid. Was he great in the trucks last year? He was 17. He was 17 and still earning top 20s at places like Martinsville and Richmond and Bristol at 17. He's in a Thor truck at $6,000. The last time we had a Thor truck under $6,000, it wasn't a driver that you had any confidence in at all. Less than Connor Jones. And you still played that driver, and that driver was in the optimal lineup, folks. Her name was Haley Deegan at 5,500 for Thor. Ran in 17th all day, finished in 17th, really didn't do much. You don't think Connor Jones can do that? Crazy town. It's just wiping him off the board. We're not playing Connor Jones. You're not playing Connor Jones. Your audience isn't playing Connor Jones. People listening out here, maybe you play him, maybe you don't, but the people realize that, well, I might be able to get some leverage down here with this value play as well. The guy did like Stuart Friesen, which then again blows my mind. Why do we like Stuart Friesen? I get it. Like it goes back to, 2019. If we're just going back there, we like Stuart Friesen. And he does have some pretty solid Bristol results, but outside of Kansas, the guy has not had a lot of speed. This team has taken major steps backwards. And he's just like, well, if he's fast in practice, then we're going to play him. Okay. I just don't get that one. Maybe I missed something again. That's why I watch some of this content. Like, where did I miss it? Yeah, he's got top 10s. But like, if the thing is, oh, well, he's been good at Bristol. Okay, I'm following that logic. Let's do an a priori deductive reasoning here that, since he has been good at Bristol in the past, then thus he becomes a positive play. All right. Then why is it Grant Enfinger a part of that conversation? Now, if you want to make the argument that it's a price thing, fine. But make that argument. You cannot simply say Friesen's history matters, although Enfinger's is better. Friesen's history matters, and his current state, which is not good, doesn't matter. And Enfinger's current state, which is good, doesn't matter. So, yeah, it doesn't add up. Please let other people play Friesen. I have no interest whatsoever. And as I said in the previous podcast, I don't know if the 7K range is somewhere I want to go. Maybe that means there's leverage there, but I don't find it too appealing. All right, here's another one. The Henderson trucks suck. What are we doing? Who has ever said that before? Are they great? No. But the Henderson truck, which Kligerman constantly rolled into the top 15. Why does that truck suck? Someone want to explain to me why it sucks? Why it's garbage? You want to explain to me how it's worse than Nice? You want to explain to me how it's worse than Young? You want to explain to me how it's worse than Ray Hume? You want to explain to me how it's worse than Timmy Hill? Or G2G? Or Freedom Racing Enterprises? Or Swinsky? And AM Racing? I think I can make a pretty solid argument that it's better than all of those, which then defaults it into 20th place. Look, Stephen Parsons is no world beater, but he's not a slug either. He's had some pretty solid races. He does have good racing lineage. If he's running in this truck all season for Henderson, he's going to get better. He has Bristol experience. What are we doing? More leverage. More leverage. All of these drivers have a legitimate shot. At one point in the podcast, we hear that Ty Majeski is a 6th to 12th place driver. How did we get to that number? He won the race in 2022. He was in competition in 2023, but he blows a tire with 4 laps left in stage 2. This guy was a near championship contender last season. He has the 5th highest driver rating at Atlanta, 3rd highest at Las Vegas, would have finished higher, but had a penalty late in the race. But he's a 6th to 12th place driver. And then the guy notices, yeah, he won. Do you want to go back and change that prediction or just keep moving? Oh, just keep moving forward. All right, yeah. 6th, 12th place driver. Done. Are you crazy? He could easily lead laps over Kyle Busch, folks. He could easily lead laps over Corey Heim, Christian Eckes. He has done that before. No, he's 6th, 12th place driver. Great. He's going to be ignored. No one's going to play and watch that video. Jam in some Majeski. Get yourself some leverage. Also in that video, just showing some more of just the carelessness. Zane Smith's going to be racing for Spire Motorsports this weekend, he says. And then 3 minutes later, Zane Smith's going to be racing for McAnally Motorsports. Which is it? You don't even know what team this guy is on. Zane Smith. I mean, it's not like we're talking about Spencer Boyd or Thad Moffitt. We're talking about Zane Smith. And you don't know who he is racing for. And then you make that mistake. And then you don't double back and say, oh, I'm sorry. These guys switch teams a lot. It's easy to get them confused. And this is not like a simple mistake. I discussed this on the podcast before. Zane Smith was or is with Spire in the Cup Series. In the Truck Series, he's with Front Row. And this season, he's with McAnally in the Truck Series as a part-time ride. He is not week in, week out with the same team, with the same crew, getting the same reps. This is not going to be the same Zane Smith at Front Row. And we have already seen that. It wasn't the same one. He was good at Las Vegas running for McAnally, but he wasn't even the best McAnally truck. And that's going to be the case often because he is only a part-time McAnally driver. So when you get those teams confused, that's a pretty significant error. Because people are going to jump in like, oh, same old Zane Smith. It's not. I don't think he's a $9,500 driver. And even when last year, again, he led a bunch of laps last year, though. And he finished second in 2022 and would have finished better in 2023. Cool. You know how you got the lead last year? It was just pit cycling. He stayed out while others pit. He didn't pass for the lead. He didn't have a dominant race truck last season. He cycled to the lead, which is fine and dandy. But let's not just say, oh, he led a bunch of laps, so he's really fast here. There's a lot more to it. There's a little bit more research that goes into it. You can check my previous podcast to find that. And if people are going to go heavy on Zane Smith, please do so. We will go the other direction. All right. Is that enough anger? I apologize for my anger. It's not resentful or resentment. And I don't mean to pick on anyone or belittle anyone or even tell anyone to improve. That's fine. That's whatever. Now I just have to embrace and hunker down and brace for possible attacks. And you meanie, I can't believe you said that. You're trying to start another DFS war. You're always stirring trouble up. I'm just trying to help out the people that are watching and give leverage, period. I cannot be any more transparent about that. Like, it wasn't one mistake. Like a couple weeks ago when the same guy said, everybody play Jordan Anderson. It's the jam of the week. And I'm sitting there. I didn't say anything because I'm being a nice guy. But he's in a Mike Harmon car. Don't you know that? They said that earlier in the week. This thing's a starting park. Everybody, Jim and Jordan Anderson, play of the century. And people listened, and they did it. And I didn't say anything, and I feel bad. And then the guy laughed about it afterwards, like, wow, people just lost hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars because of that. It sucks. Well, this time I said something. This time you got leverage. I don't enjoy watching other podcasts. Some of them are really good. Some of them I do actually enjoy. And some of the articles I really do enjoy as well. There are really good content providers out there, and you've heard me talk about them before. Most of the stochastic crew is cool. I don't know anyone. I should just say all of them. I don't know anyone at Stochastic that doesn't seem. I remember. I'll go through the list, but I've worked with EMAC. Love the guy. He is just has a good soul, and you just see that come through on the screen. Phil when he was there, Phil when he's not there. Race sheets. Again, another person with a good soul and a genuine person. I worked with Greg at DraftKings doing tons of videos. Fun guy to work with, very hardworking. Was on Laffy's podcast once upon a time, even before I knew had any kind of. I don't really have much of a connection with Laffy. We were at Fanbytes together, but I love listening to him and Dan way back on Fantasy Insiders or whatever it was, that site that Soccer Dave ran, or Sorcerer Dave or whatever his name is. Dan Strafford, God, Dan was always a great guy. Fanby Stochastic, he's not around anymore. This has turned into like me repenting and saying all these guys good names just to get on the good graces of karma. But the truth is, they are all pretty cool, and I'm missing a lot of guys. They were all cool, and I, even had some good relationships at Roto Grinders, and I had Engelman. I remember reading Engelman's work back in, was it 2012 on Reddit. He would post all of his spreadsheet stuff on Reddit. Then he was on Basketball Monster, and then eventually, I think Stochastic Awesome-o. But he is a very hardworking guy, and I've never talked to him, seemingly genuine. At least he comes off that way on the screen, and honest about everything that he does. So, and you have to be if you're getting up super early in the morning every single day, and he's been doing that for over a decade. Actually, he's been doing this longer than I have, I think so. So you have to appreciate that type of hard work ethic, effort. You have to respect that. Got the hustle in him. So the point is, there's a lot of really good people. Like even the people that I've gotten into fights with, like Rotodoc and Steve. Look, they wouldn't still be around if they weren't providing quality content. They wouldn't still be around if they weren't treating people honestly and fairly. And that means, their colleagues, that means their customers, anyone who has remained in this business for over a decade, which not very many have, has to be doing something right. And we see people go for a year or two and they fade, or 3, 4, 5 years and they fade. There's a lot of guys that have gone. Not very many of us have been along. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but There's some really good people out there. I like to highlight them as much as I can. You want to talk about this Tom Kennedy post? Since we're here, if you're still with me, if you were able to listen to that. So the guy at Stochastic pointed out, I recently became aware of certain sites that are violating our intellectual property rights and want to address this as our position is clear to everyone. Accurate projections data is what we're known for, and it is the core of what we do. We've invested a massive amount of resources into our models and simulations to get to that point. It's frustrating to see our work repurposed without permission as industry aggregates. Sorry, I had to take a swig of pre-workout. Which undermines the efforts we put into violates intellectual property rights. We've not been keen on litigation, which is why I'm a recovering attorney, but we're fully committed to protecting our work and investment. Or we'll be reaching out to certain sites individually to address our concerns directly, but if anyone else thinks it's okay to take our data and repackage it as their own product, we hope it's prompt reconsideration of practices where fair play and respect our standard. So I've had my work stolen for years. There's really nothing you can do about it. My stuff goes out on the various discords, and it's not just like people sharing with your pal. They take it, they build a site around it, they build a discord around it, and they charge people to use it, and it's really just my stuff. You know, I used to try to fight the fight. There's no point anymore. What I've learned is just try to keep making it better, try to stay 1 or 2 steps ahead. Man, just deal with it and understand I'm not going to get rich, but I can help some people, and some people will be loyal and support me. The problem that I have with this is, one, the fact that he just became aware of this. Look, people were repurposing and stealing projections from FanVice, which means they were doing it from Awesemo, which means they've been doing it from Jump Street at Stochastic. And for you to just now find out that people simply take a projection number and steal it and then put it into theirs when everyone does it everywhere, it's crazy. Now, maybe he didn't know the severity or how big these things were. I mean, it's one thing to do it in a small scale. It's another thing to take someone's and then build your whole brand around it. Like, the keyword that he's getting at, and I don't think he wants to mention the site that's doing this, but there is a site that I know well and that you know well that bills itself as an aggregate projection site. And they are outspoken about what they do. And now the chickens have come home to roost. And one of those sites that they're aggregating from says, we don't like this. And what that really means, if you're not sure, is content provider site A pulls data from Roto Grinders, Stochastic, Sim Saver, whatever, all those sites. Takes all of those projections, puts them in a pot, stirs them up, takes all those ownership datas, and then puts them into a pretty cheap, flimsy spreadsheet, and then shares that. So instead of you buying 17 different packages, you can just go to this.
Shop for everyday items. Try saying things like, Alexa, order AA batteries, or reorder paper towels.
Shut up. Hate these things. So what happens is, instead of purchasing 17 different ones, you can just go to this one guy and get the one thing. At least that's what they're trying to sell you on. And that's fine. Anyone can make up projections anyway. It's just a number. It's easy to steal. That's why, for me, I've always took the stance of, people don't really want projections. And I'll mention projections when I'm doing sales because it's just one of those things that you say. But you really don't, I mean, you'll take it, you like it, but what people really want is ease of play, comfort of play. They want to feel like they're in control. Any of these giant websites, the ones that grow, the ones that stay along, it's because they're providing a bunch of different tools, a bunch of different assets, a bunch of different ways to manage and navigate every single slate. They don't just give you a projection. And you'll see the sites that last a year, 2 or 3, are always just doing projections. Oh, here's the number. Just go blindly play this. And that's fine to work for some, but the players that you attract don't stay around for long. When they don't stay around for long, your website goes under. You need to attract players that are going to stick with it. And the only way people stick with it is if they enjoy playing. So you have to create tools and assets that make it enjoyable. Now, my spreadsheet is nothing fancy or awesome, but one of the things that I've always tried to think of is user experience. Make it more comfortable, make it more enjoyable, so you'll keep playing regardless of the results. If all you care about are the results, the stats are not in your favor. The probability is not in your favor. You're eventually going to go down. So you just do projections. You just lean on results. Your users just lean on results. They lose their money. They quit. They stop buying your subscriptions. They die. RotoGrinder sells a bunch of different stuff. They make the experience better. They're alive. Stochastic, for the most part, has sold a bunch of different stuff. They're still alive. Then you start trying to name other sites. They're not around anymore. There have been so many DFS startups that are dead. And I know there's a couple new ones that have emerged over the last 2 or 3 years, but it's still early days with those sites. And when I look at those sites, they're leaning heavy into projections. They're leaning heavy into screenshot. Look at my big win. And I've seen that before from a lot of different sites. And it'll last for 2 or 3 years. But you can't win forever. Your users can't win forever. It dries up. Maybe the guy at the top, the CEOs keep winning, but the users aren't winning. And then they slowly fade one after another. And the only thing you got is I'm trying to sell projections and results, and they're not coming through. And then your site goes under, or you have to move your site into someone else's site. We've seen it before. So there are quite a few sites out there right now, but all of them are still in their nascent stages because they're just doing projections. It's about performance. It's about experience. It's about comfortability. Anyone can make the car go faster. Anyone can add horsepower. That's what basically the projections is. We make this thing go as fast as possible. That's great. You try to make your car go as fast as possible. You devote all of your resources to that. You go get in a speed war. What I'm going to do is make my seats comfortable. I'm going to have heated seats. You have a digital dash. I'm going to have space in the front seat. I'm going to have some room leg in the back seat. I'm going to have a leather interior. I'm going to have it be an auto start from your house on a cold day. It's not going to make noise. It's going to be a quiet ride. And then when you want it to get loud, it's going to have some pretty nice speakers with decent trunk space. You're going to be able to fit a car seat in the back of it. These are the things that I'm working on. I want you to have fun and enjoy the ride. Now, you can't go out there and run 100 miles per hour on the highway in my spreadsheet. But you can have fun and you can enjoy it. You may not win the race. You might win the race in their thing. But when you're not winning the race in their 100 horsepower car, the ride stinks. And after a while, you're not winning enough races with that 100 horsepower, 100,000 horsepower. And then you're just like, this car was a stupid purchase. I've got all the speed, not really winning anything. And most of the time, it's not even a good experience in the car. Meanwhile, we may not be winning a bunch of races, but we are enjoying our life. That's my 2 cents on that. I don't expect anything to come of it. It's just a tweet. It's a threat. It's a warning. I don't think they're going to stop. But it is a conversation that should be had. You shouldn't steal people's stuff. I hate when people steal my stuff. I've had a couple people politely ask to borrow things, and I've said yes. Always do. And I respect that. Like, oh, you want to share that or this? That's cool. It's awesome. Maybe it'll attract someone into my site, but you had the decency to ask. That's pretty cool. But I've also had people just straight rip me off, putting tons of work into it, and then they don't even repurpose it. They just resell it. And at that point, it's like, man, I just need to find a way to get the stupid thief out, get that middleman thief out and go direct to that person. But anyway, there you go. Here's a podcast of negativity for you on a Friday. Hope you enjoyed it. All right, blessed to have you guys around. Love you guys. Trip to life's fantastic.